What are you here to debate about?
Well, I mean, I would like to debate a few things. There's a few things I do agree with on, like that. I believe is your point. I'm assuming. We can get into it. So the first one, I totally agree with. I think. I mean, I don't have an issue with that. So you win that debate. Two, I don't know enough about that topic to debate you with. Minors deserve gender affirming care. You're probably right on that, so I'm not going to debate you on that. The third one, same there. I think you're there. You're right. Abortion in all 9 months. Could you elaborate on your side on that? Can you explain why you think that?
Yeah, I think that at any point a person can remove a fetus from their body because they're not obligated to keep it there. So they can do this at any point. But I do believe that after 24 weeks, they should do it in nonviolent means. So means that wouldn't kill the fetus.
Okay, cool. I think you're there with that. The next one is where you kind of get me. Abolish police and prisons.
Yep.
Why? How would that help society?
So police and prisons as they currently exist are just a tool used by the state to protect private interests. They're not actually there to protect people, and they don't produce many positive outcomes. What we want to do is we want to remove the carceral and retributive state of justice that police and prisons operate under and replace it with a transformative and restorative justice model. So we want to replace it with like more rehabilitation as well as addressing the socioeconomic issues that cause crime.
So you're just saying prison in another in like different word, like you're saying like that they should be in rehab and other type of rehabilitation venues to be held at, but
I would
isn't that
disagree.
still
I would disagree. This is prison. The purpose of prison is to hold you as punishment for a crime. The purpose in this sense would be to give you care. So because the purposes are different, I would call them different. Just like I wouldn't say if somebody's on like a 48-hour psych hold that they're in like a prison. I would say they're on a mental health hold.
what? So, but what is the difference between a mental health hold and a prison?
Prisons don't offer you care. Prisons are simply just a place to house you, and
Pri-
typically they're going to
well, they feed you.
negatively feeding you is not care. Feeding you doesn't
Well,
address the
what do you
issues.
define as care? What do you define as care?
Care would be like actual mental health, like actual mental health care. Like that's what care would that's what care we would be talking about when we're looking as rehabilitation, as well as uh,
What if the individual refuses the mental health care though? Isn't that still prison?
no, because the purpose is not to house you for a crime. If you want to just play a semantics game and say it should still be called a prison, fine. I'm going to disagree with this, but it's still going to be something that's functionally different than what our prisons are currently operating and running to do.
Um, and for law, like, do you abolish laws?
Why would we
Do
abolish law?
you? Well, what would be the point of law if no one were to enforce it?
Why would there be no one enforcing law?
Because you're saying
Did
that
you
you should
listen to
abolish
what I said
police.
when I described police and prison abolition? Or are we just waiting to respond?
So I'll repeat what I think you said, and then you correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm here to listen and learn. Um, you it's to punish the individual and remove them from society. Can you elaborate on that again and fix what I just said?
Well, that has nothing to do with what I said a police and prison abolition is.
Okay, so what is police in prison to you?
So police are a state-sanctioned tool of to protect private property interests. They're not there to protect the citizens. They're just there to protect private property.
So if someone robs an individual and or assaults an individual, they're private property.
What?
Well, so
Police don't protect
like
people from violent crimes.
um I don't believe that's true.
Police only solve 46% of all violent crimes that happen. Solve means the
Yeah, but
violent crimes
that's not. But you're speaking in
solve.
absolutes. You're speaking
Yes, I
in
am,
the
because
absolute.
solved means that the violent crimes happened. So if the violent crimes are happening, police aren't protecting people from those violent crimes because they're still happening. Police are also under no legal obligation to protect you. This was determined via Supreme Court case via what was it? Castle Rock v. Gonzalez. Police have no legal obligation to protect citizens. They're only obligated to protect private property.
So your side is saying that the police are just a negative entity. They don't do positive.
Police do not produce more positive outcomes than they do negative outcomes now.
And so that because of that so that's like saying like not all teachers are able to educate an individual based on their ability
more
to
positive
learn.
outcomes than they produce negative
Yeah, but not
outcomes.
always.
No, they produce net.
I personally went
net.
to.
You don't know what I'm saying.
I personally went to.
You don't know what you're purposely misrepresenting.
Okay,
what I'm
but
saying.
listen.
I don't care about your anecdotes.
Listen.
I don't care about your anecdotes. I don't care where you went to school. I don't care about any of that. Teachers as a net
okay, so you don't care about the person you're debating. So the person you're debating with, you don't care about their.
I don't care about anecdotal experiences now. Anecdotes don't mean anything to me.
Why?
Because A, you could be lying.
So reality.
A,
reality
you could be lying. B, it's not verifiable.
No,
C, it's not statistical data.
So entertain me for a second.
Sure.
If you Google this, so do teachers sexually assault students?
Sometimes.
And so personally, I've seen this happen to someone. Like, and it's been in the news. It's been in the news. You could literally
not relevant to the conversation.
Okay, so fine. We'll take my personal experience out of it. Reality, if you Google teacher sexually assaults student, that's happened before, right?
Sure. It's not relevant to the conversation.
So then we should get rid of education and teachers.
Because teachers provide a net benefit to society, not a net negative. Police cause more negative outcomes than they cause positive outcomes. This is what I'm talking about. Teachers do not cause more negative outcomes than they do positive outcomes. Police do.
Sure. And you're taking that statistic from what source?
From just basing everything that happens around policing, basing the fact that they only saw 13%.
So your personal experience and your perspective on reality.
If you would stop talking, if you would stop talking, you would have heard me just about to list a bunch of statistics and information. But what you did is you interrupted, and now you look foolish. So again, as I was saying,
go ahead.
Maybe if you didn't interrupt, you'd understand.
Go ahead with the statistics.
As I was saying, police solve 13% of property crime. So they fail. 87% of property crime does not get solved because police are ineffective at their jobs. Police solve 40% of violent crime. Multiple police officers abuse their wives, upwards of 40% in studies when we look at like studies based on police spousal abuse. Police are under no legal obligation, again, to protect you. We can keep going further if we want to. When we look at school shootings, when we look at a study of every school shooting to happen in the U.S., post-Columbine, schools that have police officers there have a higher mortality rate than schools that don't. We can look at the fact that 300 plus uniformed officers showed up at Uvalde, and instead of protecting those children, they got a bunch of them shot until a couple people decided 3 hours into being there to finally go in and save the kids from the school shooter. Overwhelmingly, police produce negative outcomes. Police are sued for upwards of millions of dollars every year in every department across the United States because they consistently violate the civil rights of the people they're arresting. Police are constantly caught on body camera, absolutely unaliving people, like consistently, like to the point where it's an epidemic. Police have qualified immunity and are able to just leave a job if they get caught doing something wrong and just go to another job. There are 100%, it is a 100% net negative to have police in the system that we currently have them in. Now you may go.
So you're saying it's a 100% net negative when you bring up your first statistic was 13 or something percent of property crimes are not solved. So how's that 100% net negative if they're solving a certain percentage of crimes?
Do you understand what I mean when I say it's a 100% net negative?
No.
I'm saying that police provide a net negative benefit to society, and there's a 100% chance that they do that. There's a 100% chance that they are providing a net negative. Not that the statistics are 100%.
No, that's fair. No, that's fair. That's an accurate thing to say. Okay, well, I think you made a good point on that. I hate cops too. I just wanted to run you through the ring and see what you had to say. I do think it's a little crazy to abolish police and prisons, but your perspective on it is interesting. I mean, I would be a little scared to live in a society without police, but that's probably a conditioned response to, you know, what I see on my screens and whatnot. So cool on you for that. Trump is terrible. Yeah, sure. It's not the best, dude. It's a pretty terrible, dude. Capitalism is bad. Why do you say that?
Because capitalism provides a net negative to society.
So a net negative to society is pretty much your perspective on all of these things, though.
Yeah, if a system is providing society with a negative instead of a positive, yeah, I don't think we should have that system.
So then what? So I appreciate your perspective. I think that they're good, like, points to start off and have conversations about. What do you have solutions? Like, what is your solution to capitalism if it's such a terrible thing?
Any economic system but capitalism.
So you truly believe that communism is is like so much different from capitalism? Like, do you think that
Ideologically they're complete opposites? Capitalism is capitalism.
Economically they're not. From an economic standpoint, they're not.
Can you define capitalism and communism for me?
Isn't it when the people are equally producing the goods of society or something?
No.
What is your definition?
Well, my definition would be the Marxist definition. The founders of communism, Marx and Engels. I would say capitalism is the ability for privatized property, whereas communism is the abolition of private property in its like broadest sense.
Yeah. So you understand that if you buy a house, so where do you live? You don't have to tell me where you live. But
homes would be personal property, by the way, not private.
So personal and private property, do you think that an individual actually owns the land in America? Like, do you think an individual or a business owns land like that isn't the government?
Yes, I believe people own land.
So who do they pay for that land?
Typically banks who own the land
And
beforehand.
the banks are owned, and who do the banks get their money from? The Federal Reserve?
Get their money from? Banks typically... Wait, that's not how banks own land, right? Typically, banks own the land because they've given you a loan. So they own that land until you pay the loan back.
And how do they get that loan? From the Federal Reserve, correct?
Well, sure, but then I would just say, what about people who don't take out loans and they just buy their property with straight cash? The bank doesn't own their property.
So the Federal Reserve is the person noting the cash.
What?
It is the business.
What does any of this
the Federal Reserve
is capitalism being bad? What does anything?
Well, because no. So my point. Well, so I asked you what your solution for capitalism was, and you said communism would be something better, and I told 100%. You, well, so 100%. Okay, explain on that statistic. 100%. If you're going to be,
communism would lead to the abolishment of private property, which would mean that people would
and
not
what
be able
I'm
to
saying
afford
is that there is no. So every single. So do you own property?
Private property is not the things that I own. That's not what private property is.
Do you own private property?
No, I don't own any private property.
Okay, so when you own private property, you have to pay tax. Like a piece of land that you bought and you pay taxes on?
No.
What is private property?
Private property would be the means of production, so it would be things that lead to the production of goods or services. Land that you buy and live on is not private property.
So give me an example of these means and goods that you're talking about.
So the means of production would be split up into 4 distinct categories. It's going to be land, labor, capital, and technology. Land is going to refer to like...
So I'm giving you an example of one of those things, which is...
No, you're not. If you'd stop interrupting, you would know how there's a distinction between the land you're talking about and the land I'm talking about. The land you're talking about... Jesus Christ. The land you're talking about is land that you would own as like a private citizen. It's your personal land to live on. That is personal private property. Private property. Yeah, one second. Private property. Huh? Yeah. Hold on. I'm in the middle of a debate. Private property is going to talk about the land that's specifically used in the production of goods or services. So it's going to talk about like farmland, forests. It's going to talk about lakes, things like this, not things that you individually own, right? Private property is going to talk about technology, which is going to be like the tools that are typically used in the production of goods and services. It's going to talk about capital, which is going to talk about like factories and things used in goods and services. And it's going to talk about labor. These are the means of production. Not my home, my toothbrush, my car. That is not the means of production. That is not what's being abolished under communism.
Okay, so let's say I have an LLC. I am a business now, and I own a house. And I own this house to rent to an individual, and that's how I make money, right?
Yeah, gone. It's not your house anymore. It's there.
No. What I'm saying is when you get down to the roots of it, the government, right? The United States of America owns the land that you purchase and you borrow and you pay tax on. And those taxes go to pay a debt, which is, will never be paid off, the trillions of dollars that we owe.
Great.
But
You're just giving me another reason why capitalism sucks. Great. So we move to a system where the government can't own your land.
So I don't.
Beautiful.
But I don't see. But my debate is not that capitalism is bad, but that communism is not the solution.
Not based on anything you just said. You said that
Nothing
our
that
current system.
Okay.
Yeah, under our current system, people can commodify resources necessary for people to live. Under communism, they cannot. So under our current system, you can starve if somebody else has the right to the food or the right to the land or the right to the water. Under communism, nobody can do this. The resources are for the people, and you're able to have whatever resources you need to survive.
So like when there's like natural disasters that happen and the government like swoops in and like delivers like water and food and all that stuff, all while having an army that protects that land, you would say that that doesn't work? Like that system, it like allows for people to starve?
Yes. There are people currently starving under capitalist systems all over the country, all over the world.
And
yes.
And people in communists. So
people under communism.
China is communist,
no, China's
right?
Capitalist. China has private.
Russia.
No,
so
Russia
what country
capitalist.
right now? What country right now in the world is communist?
There are none. You can't be communist and have a country. Communism is the dissolution of the state. The state wouldn't exist under communism, so you cannot have a country that is communist.
So Russia back in the day before it was Russia was
Soviet
so
Russia
was
was
communist?
socialist. Yes, they're the USSR.
What was the name of it?
The USSR, the United Socialist Soviet States.
Okay, that makes sense. So, what is the difference between socialism and communism?
Socialism still has.
And why wouldn't socialism be better than communism?
Because I believe that states are inherently unethical.
So you want the removal of state, which is like a Republican platform, right?
I mean, it was a leftist platform before it was a Republican platform. Marx existed well before the Republican Party.
Do you think a lot of people in the Republican Party are Marxist?
No, I think that oftentimes conservatives, quote unquote, would love to live in a communist socialist country. They just are too dumb. And instead they believe that communism is bad because the internet taught them communism was bad one time.
Oh, but has there ever been a working system of communism? An example of like a society that thrived under it?
You would be looking at like indigenous tribes, like prior to colonialization. They largely were communal in nature and operated under most of the tenets that communism operates off of. They didn't have privatized.
But it wouldn't be communism.
Ownership.
It would be like an ungoverned.
Well, no, it would be the things that communism purports.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be like they weren't like we're communists.
No, because communism didn't exist yet.
So that's the paradox of being a communist. It's that if you want a
Wait,
radical
what
movement,
when I
if you
told
want
you
a
what
radical
communism was, what
movement
did I
and
say it was?
revolution, then you would
Wait,
need organized. You would need so many different things to happen to fall into place, which would contradict like the any of the communist beliefs.
all right, as long as it's before 4, because I have my interview at 4. I got you. Yeah, can you just define what I told you communism was?
When the people control the means and production.
Yeah, did indigenous tribes have this?
I don't know.
The answer is yes.
Okay, so but
So
why weren't
so in everything but name, indigenous tribes were communist. In everything but name.
and so you want America to go back to being an indigenous type of
Nope.
governed land, right?
No.
Well,
I want there
so
to be no America.
you want there to be no America.
100%. I don't want any countries. I'm a communist.
So why don't you live in a part of the world that isn't America?
Can you name me a part of a world where there's no countries?
I mean, they're uninhabitable, right? Like,
Where?
I mean, or unless if every single country has placed, a
Where?
flag in every part of the.
Where in the world is there not a country?
I don't know. You would have to discover it like Columbus, right?
You think there are undiscovered sections of the world?
There's definitely like native like island, right? There has to be an island
Do people
that
live
isn't
there?
owned by. No, because why would you want to live
Okay.
where no one lives and reproduces and has technology and has
Who said we're
clean
getting rid of
water and
technology?
food? Huh?
Who said we're getting rid of technology?
Well, so communism basically what you're proposing is that you live dormant and quiet enough long enough for a country to fail in order to be native again and take
Nope.
advantage of the technology
Nope.
that they produced.
Nope. I'm proposing that we abolish private property. That's what I'm proposing. The
And how do you
abolition
do
of bourgeois private
so
property.
how do you split that up evenly for people to live in?
What?
Like so for like the
plan it out.
generations.
If I have 100 homes and people need homes, I plan it out evenly amongst the people that they get 100 homes. The people who need larger homes get larger homes because they might have families, so they need more space.
So what you're proposing is in order to plan out the downfall, because what you said is that you don't want there to be in America. So in order for there to not be in America, you want time and resources and technology long enough to brainstorm this idea of communism to bring the downfall of America. So you would be benefiting from what is capitalism with your phone and your technology and your food and your resources and your land and other entities that are producing things for you long enough for you to create the downfall of it. Do you see how like that's kind of like
go crazy today?
Well, no, I mean it doesn't ethically that is the same thing as
Yes,
Columbus coming into.
Communism is no iPhone. Yes, yep, 100%.
Is that what I said?
Essentially, yeah.
How?
You're doing the whole you want to be in society but also critique society. Yeah,
No.
It's kind of how I
you
do.
said no. What you said, I remember you saying it verbatim. You said you want there to be no America.
Correct. I don't want there to be
Which
any
I don't
countries.
even know what
Countries are
that
inherently-
means.
countries are
I don't
inherently
even
unethical.
know.
Yes, I
Huh?
think people should. I think people should have the right to live where they want. Countries are inherently unethical. We didn't used to have countries. Countries are a fairly recent invention in human history.
And were people building spaceships and flying planes and using
There's a
and
correlation
communicating
issue here.
via telephone like we are?
There's a correlation here. People weren't building stuff not because there weren't countries. They just weren't technologically advanced yet. There's no need to say
capitalism and free markets allowed for that to advance.
False.
What? No,
Space travel.
that's factually
Space travel was
so like
also
the
invented.
motor
Hold on,
industry
stop.
in Detroit.
Stop talking. Hold on. Space travel was also pioneered by the Soviets, who were socialists, not capitalists. They
And who
pioneered
got to
space
the moon
travel.
and who got to the moon first?
We did, but who got to space first?
Okay, but who got to the moon first?
Who got into outer space first?
And
Us or the
okay,
Soviets?
the Soviet Union got to space first, and then the United States got to the moon first, and then walked on the moon first.
Great. I don't think that says anything when they were second to get into space. They just pushed the goal point
So
to the moon because they were like,
just having an ego.
well, they already beat us. They said, well, they already beat us to space, so we're gonna have to go somewhere else.
No, we're just having an ego battle. So your perspective is saying that going to space is better than landing on the moon. That's both subjective information.
Your claim is that innovation only happens under capitalism, and I'm showing you clearly that it doesn't.
But it also does.
It doesn't, because the Soviets are one of the fastest industrialized nations of all time, and they were not capitalist.
And then what happened? So what happened when the United States also competed against? So
what does that have to do with anything? That doesn't defeat the fact that they industrialized and were not innovated, and they were not a capitalist nation.
Developing technology.
So are non-capitalist societies. Half the stuff, a bunch of stuff we still use today, were invented by the Soviets.
Yeah, but they weren't communists. They were socialists.
But
they were
what is
socialists.
Socialism?
They were,
what is socialism?
So your solution to capitalism, which is communism, you reference a socialist, like, come on.
What is socialism?
You define it for me so we can talk about it.
Do you not know?
I would like to hear what you have to say about it.
Great. So socialism is also a system in which the means of production are collectively owned by the workers. Also the abolition of private property. However, it's still
so it's like communism.
I don't do disingenuous ass motherfuckers, bro. If you're not here to have a genuine conversation, see ya. Have you guys noticed that every time he interrupted, I was going to finish answering? Like I was going to finish saying how socialism and communism were different, because socialism still allows for a state. Communism is the dissolution of the state. It happens after socialism. Did anybody? But, you know, when you just call to hear yourself talk, none of that gets said.